U.S. intelligence agency, mind control.
Want to give a shout out. Some Bard students are occupying an administration building, I think it is there, called Ludlow, and have renamed it Shema's Hall in honor of Shema Rifat al.
This is just a buff video that I put in because it was kind of funny. Before, yeah, there's a couple buffer videos, and then Biden tariffs and EV stuff.
Arir, who's a daughter of the poet Rifat al-Arir, who was killed by Israeli forces in December. On April 26th, Shema was killed by, I'll just read from their statement. On April 26th, Shema was martyred by the Zionist regime alongside her husband and 2-month-old son. The students continue to occupy Shema's Hall. We'd like to reflect on Bard's popular university for Gaza. They have had an encampment for 12 days, and they say they have created a space for political education and a community rooted in solidarity. It served as a place of continual political protest and a reminder as students, we have a duty to learn about Palestine and resist injustice. Their demands include Bard College adopt and abide by a set of ethical investment guidelines. One would imagine you would already have that, particularly as a liberal arts college.
Yeah, you would think so.
And they want that to be established by a committee that is made up of representatives from across their college community. Here, please play that video. I mean, good for them.
The island, the heads have basically been found in a circle around the island. There's a few internally, but not really. They're all on the edges, which is very interesting. I wonder whether they know why. And they all have names too. That's cool.
Palestine will be free.
Bard College, you will learn.
Bard College, you will learn.
Refugees will return.
Refugees will return.
Bard College, you will see.
Bard College, you will see.
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free.
Bard College.
So folks who are up in the Hudson Valley area can stop by there and show their support for those students. Good for them. I mean, there's been mixed success with at least getting administration to sit down and engage in this topic. This, of course, also coming off of that story out of the New York Times about what was behind the really violent response by the police, by peaceful protesters at Columbia.
I think we know about this. Can we cover this? Have we seen this where it came out that there's like 4 billionaires that...
Yeah, how old is this video?
4 days. Maybe we watched this. I don't know.
No, we already covered this. We don't need that.
Okay. Okay, so this is...
Remember Kind bars. Don't buy Kind bars. That's the actual product that should be protested. If you're going to boycott anything.
President Biden has announced more student loan handouts this morning, saying he'll cancel $7.7 billion in student debt for 160,000 borrowers. The administration has already approved almost $160 billion in student loan debt cancellation for more than 4 million people. In a statement released this morning, Biden writes, quote, "I will never stop working to cancel student debt, no matter how many times Republican elected officials try to stop us." I assume he's referring to the Supreme Court. Joining me now is Virginia Congressman Bob Good. He's the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus and a member of the Education and Budget Committees. Congressman, should we assume that it's the Supreme Court that the president is saying he's not going to listen to?
Why would you make that assumption? Why would you make that assumption? It's the Supreme Court. They're not Republicans. They're not Democrats.
Well, they're trying to be like, oh, he doesn't listen to the highest court in the land and watch, but it's always going to be a double standard because if the Supreme Court rules on something that's anti-Trump, it's going to be Biden's DOJ that did it.
Of course.
On January 19 of 2025, because he's not going to be president anymore. But this president thinks he has constitutional authority he does not have. Authority he said he didn't have, about a year and a half ago, when he said he didn't have authority on his own to unilaterally do it. Nancy Pelosi said he didn't have authority to do it, and yet he continues to do it anyway. He's spending money that we don't have. He's further bankrupting the United States and further harming the economy.
The ability to use the court would have been the easiest and most efficient way to do it, right? And it would have saved the most money for the government to do it. There's other avenues he has the legal ability to take. He said that at the time. He said that they didn't expect the Supreme Court to approve it. He gave them another chance with a more like he rewrote it, and he gave them another chance to act on it, and they still said no because of the conservative leaning in the Supreme Court, which it's always had. I mean, they upheld slavery and all that shit. Like, if anything, they helped start the Civil War specifically as an institution. But really,
education.
The seeds for the Civil War were set on when the Constitution was written. Because they're all cowards.
Cardonia recently, and I asked him if student loan debt is legitimate. Is it legitimate debt? Is it debt that should be paid? And he wouldn't answer that question. I also asked him.
You know what it is? It's debt held by the U.S. government, which means that they are the lender.
Wait,
which means
you mean they're lowering the national debt by doing this forgiveness? Isn't that what you people constantly cry is? They seem to be real silent on the national debt.
Yeah.
Lately, I haven't heard them cry about it as much now that they need to virtue signal everything. True. Instead of point at clock number, go up.
Yeah, because quite literally, this would go to the national debt, wouldn't it? Because the national debt is the debt of. I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
I'm not an economist.
The national debt isn't necessarily.
This is the one thing you'll always hear me tap out from is when you ask me economy questions, and I'll always tell you I'm not an economist.
Okay. Is the national debt included in is personal debt?
There's a reason why the Economist news is separate from the rest, because they're fucking losers.
Yeah.
Why would I spend time learning about something that I fundamentally don't believe in?
So it does not include debts carried by individuals. However, if it is a loan given out by the state to state institutions, then it would be national debt, and cancelling it would be reducing the national debt. How interesting.
Epic.
Require borrowers to pay him back, and he wouldn't answer that question.
Well, what do you mean? Is it real? I mean, what is the question that you're asking in terms of?
What would be funny is if Biden's response was, "I don't know, bro. I'm just helping people. I'm not an economist."
Is this real debt that we're forgiving?
Well,
what were you getting?
Well, Biden and his administration seem to think that student loan debt is somehow illegitimate, that people who borrow it shouldn't have to pay it back.
It is illegitimate.
They were maybe forced into it, and they shouldn't have to make payments. I asked him, should people who have mortgages make those payments? It's
not the same. Mortgages aren't predatory, targeting 18-year-olds trying to better their own lives. You fuck. You slimy, greasy.
You know what I'd like Biden to say?
I just want people to have health care, honey.
Car loans or credit card loans, should they make those payments? Why is it student loan debt this administration somehow thinks is illegitimate, and the actual borrower shouldn't pay him back, and that debt should instead be transferred to the taxpayers who didn't borrow the debt?
Well, I don't understand the way this is happening at all. I mean, on July 10th, 2023, the Supreme Court ruled in Biden versus Nebraska, 6-3. The court struck down the administration's student loan forgiveness program.
Wow.
And agreed
Crazy.
with those
Remember how I just said that
it.
this happened and they planned on giving the Supreme Court a chance to do the right thing?
Yep.
Wow. It's crazy how I can invalidate the shit they're about to bring up before they bring it up.
July 2023. Under the court's ruling, the U.S. Department of Education was prohibited from implementing the...
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Biden-Harris administration's debt relief program. Why does this president continue to forgive student loan debt despite the fact that the Supreme Court has ruled this unconstitutional?
And
they didn't.
It's not just bet on. It literally makes the state money. That's why they oppose forgiving it so much. They literally hold this predatory loan in the state. The state owns it. We found this out a few streams ago.
But the thing is, at the end of the day, people having more disposable income to put into the economy is better for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
That is only that's not, what Klaus Schwab says, stakeholder capitalism, right? The keeping the loans and keeping the predatory loans is not good for stakeholders.
Mm.
It's good for one specific cigar chomper.
Yeah, the banks.
Mm-hmm.
Even before the Supreme Court did it.
And what if the bank's done for us?
Exactly.
How many people lost their houses in 2008 because of banks literally gambling illegally?
I unloaded on my bank the other day because I figured out that I've paid my loan and about 15 grand, and now I'm just paying interest, and I'm financially fucked because of interest.
No.
I'm paying the bank interest.
Like, honestly, like, there's like at this point, it's probably gonna be cheaper to just grab a lawyer who will take them to court, and they'll settle on what you've paid and just erase everything, and then you'll owe money to the lawyer instead, which will be
is no better.
Well, no, it'll be significantly less.
Both houses of Congress, the House and the Senate, on a bipartisan basis, overturning his previous student loan transfer scheme, and yet he vetoed it. And thankfully, the Supreme Court stepped in, as you noted. But this is a lawless president who's trying to buy votes, and again thinks that the American taxpayer should provide free college. So he's trying to buy votes for the upcoming election, just like he did last year.
The interesting thing is like, because like for a capitalist, he sure was real commie. So
No, he wasn't.
No, for a capitalist, is what I'm saying.
No, not even that. No, I looked into what his actual policies are.
I know.
No.
But what I'm saying is that I want to see what the next guy does. If he's just openly like more of the money is God theocratic type thing. Like, obviously Klaus Schwab sucks. It's the like, come on, he's the fucking supreme overlord of capitalism.
Going to fail, but he's going to continue to try. He's going to relentlessly try until he's no longer president.
It's quite extraordinary to me that he continues doing this despite the Supreme Court ruling.
We get it.
What is the Supreme Court here for if we're not
listening? They're really filling time with this one, huh?
Well, this is a lawless administration. They don't enforce the border laws. They're weaponizing the Department of Injustice and federal law enforcement against their political opponents. So it's no surprise they don't think they're bound by the Supreme Court.
Oh, so now it's the police fault. I get it. Okay, anti-cop Republicans. I get it. Okay.
In terms of who's able to spend money, they don't want to work through Congress. Frankly, they can't work through Congress. That's why the Congressional Review Act overturned his previous student loan transfer scheme that was nearly $1 trillion.
This is all quite extraordinary to me, Karine. Your reaction?
Well, I think that the president is desperate to get any votes that he can, especially from young people.
Oh, my God.
Funny enough, young people aren't having any of it. I've been reporting with progressive groups like the Sunrise Movement, and they're fixated on oil drilling. They think Biden is drilling too much. Meanwhile, his core voters think that he's not drilling enough. So really, there's nothing that the president can do to win right now.
We're energy
this
independent.
is a political play.
It's a refining issue. Thank you.
People are not paying
literally
enough attention to
drill
this,
as much as we want. It can only be refined at a certain rate, and we're at that cap.
Canceling.
Why don't you go talk to fucking OPEC
like
if you have a fucking problem with it, and stop acting like Biden controls the fucking global oil cartel? We have NATO. We control the arms cartel, not the oil or energy cartel. Suck my dick. Shut the fuck up.
Are all focused on the cost of everything and the inability to take out a mortgage because of 7% plus. Let me get your take on that, Congressman. The Federal Reserve Board.
Wow, you mean there's a housing crisis?
On the well-being of U.S. households. It finds 65% of adults say that price increases have made their financial situation worse.
Okay, so you support raising minimum wage then?
Did you know that if these kids aren't paying loans, they could afford to rent?
Wow, crazy. Did you know if we just raised minimum wage, it would help everyone?
You cancel student debt completely?
No, because like think about it. People only like, oh, but then a hamburger will cost more. It's costing more anyway because the fucking inflation, idiot.
Exactly.
Like you need your bottom line economy to be strong. The more money that goes into your bottom line, the more that it fluctuates and actually makes everyone above that bottom line more profit. That's how it works. It's literally trickle down from the bottom up. That's the whole point of the system. Trickle down economics, you got to flip that graph upside down. And then you'll be like, oh, that's how it works. So you want more money going to the lower class to enrich yourself. They're too stupid to realize this, though.
19% of renters reporting being behind on their rent. House Republicans posted this on X, saying since Biden took office, a McDonald's medium fries is up nearly 168%.
Oh my God, bro!
Hamburger, Happy Meal,
oh my McDonald's more expensive. My McDonald's more expensive.
President Trump is aware of all of this. And
it's funny because they're doing like as much as they don't control the oil prices and stuff. The Biden admin is currently doing a bunch of stuff that's going to slash our gas prices by summer. So they're gonna try and cut current gas prices in half, which won't happen. Oh, just basically just fucking mandating these companies and shit like that.
Oh, so actually regulating petrol companies so they don't fuck people over? Yeah, great.
That's what they're doing. Something like
this,
that.
This is what, as I always say, that if government needs to exist, this is why. And this is exactly the type of policy that needs to be implemented in Australia. But you also have on top of that, because I don't know how much the American fuel tax is or how many times over and over and over again you get taxed to drive on the road. In Australia, it's about 90 cents worth of tax on petrol per litre. Our petrol is currently $1.90.
Okay. Okay, so check this out. You're gonna love,
we get taxed like 4 times over to drive on the road.
You're gonna love this statistic, right?
Mm-hmm.
1 in 3 U.S. home buyers are paying all cash, highest share in nearly a decade. I wonder what that means. Buying a home with all cash. I wonder what that means. That you don't have to get a loan and you can just pay up front, huh? What do you think that means? I wonder if that has something to do with why so many people are struggling with rent. Probably because they can't afford homes to begin with. So now they have to run from these predatory people that can literally pay cash to just buy out city blocks.
Yeah. Like BlackRock, who utilize crediting systems to fuck people over who can't afford it. You know, those people. Yeah, issues.
The news on inflation is it really is rampant.
And the CEOs of these companies, they have dinners with this guy, by the way.
It's moving at a level like people have not seen.
And probably Biden as well, to be completely honest. They have dinners with all of the politicians because lobbying gets them what they want.
Taking on a life of themselves. On another note, Biden is releasing 1 million barrels of oil from the Northeast Reserve to bid to lower prices at the pump just before the election.
There you go. He's cutting into a strategic reserve. The strategic reserve that's like supposed to go to like military and stockpiling and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he's artificially flooding the market. So this is already stuff that's been refined that they just hold.
Yeah.
Right. So this isn't him drilling for more oil. It's like, this is basically the government cheese of oil.
Yes. Yeah. They got to be careful though. They can't keep this going. But I guess the problem with the cheese is because they said that they'll buy all dairy products because they're fucking retarded.
Yeah. So I mean, ultimately, that's what's happening though. Is that he's making it's a standard, entry level economic supply and demand thing. He's going to increase the supply by cutting into the federal stockpile. Which
realistically will not impact America at all.
No, they're like it's gonna the stuff that I saw.
No, I mean like using the stockpile is not going to impact the average American at all.
The amount of our oil stockpile is like so unnecessary. He could cut into it way more.
Yeah,
but
so like that's more the point that I'm getting at.
We're terrified that China could step foot in Taiwan.
Yeah, but that's more the point that I'm getting at here is that they're playing on this fact that this 1 million barrels, or Trump specifically, that this 1 million barrels is nothing. 1 million barrels. Hold on, let me just check something. How many barrels of oil does America go through each day? What do we reckon?
What? How many barrels of oil?
Yep.
Does America go through? Mm-hmm. I'd say like per capita they're at the highest.
A day.
I couldn't tell you. Maybe 100 or something.
Barrels.
Yeah,
20 million.
Okay, so I was.
So they must be releasing 1 million per day to reduce stress, which makes sense. So maybe that's what it is. Releasing 1 million barrels of gas. That's not going to do shit. So there must be more to this. Hold on.
There is more. This is just
slamming Biden's plan to release.
You
oil
can't
from,
you can't. So if you think about this, if you flood to deflate it instantly, like it's also not good. You don't want to end up deflating the value of your fucking petrol if you're America, right? So
there has to be more to this. We'll release 1 million
I think what people should be realizing here is that you could be paying a lot less for oil, but the government's hoarding it from you.
Yes. Average $3.60 per gallon. That's expensive. Still not as expensive as Australia.
$3.60 per gallon of gas?
Okay, here we go. Okay, this is what I wanted. Okay.
During the Gulf War, I want to say that, like, it got it to a point where you're paying like $11, $15 a gallon during like fucking like the height of the war on terror.
Surely not.
Because the U.S. was burning up so much oil in their fucking military machines. I remember it being really fucking high.
I'll look that up.
And then people
anyway,
were blown away because it came down to 7.
In 2006. 2008, it was 3. Anyway, so it says retailers and terminals will receive the petrol no later than June 30th, according to the Department of Energy. The supply will be released in quantities of 100,000 barrels to ensure a competitive bidding process that maximizes the impact on price at the pump, according to the Department of Energy. So I was right. They're not just releasing them all, but 1 million is also not that much.
To lower gasoline prices for this tri-state area, he claims ahead of the summer driving season, Congressman. Is this ahead of the summer driving season?
He got to $4 in 2008.
It's ahead of the election. He thinks it's a strategic political reserve, and young people are suffering. Americans are suffering under this president's policies.
In 1999, it was $1 per gallon.
$4, okay.
A single dollar for a gallon of petrol in the year 2000. It was under $1 the start of 1999. Insane. It's 25 cents a liter. US cents. That's a quarter a liter.
Housing prices, utility prices,
literally a quarter
prices,
for a
they're
quart.
really suffering, and that's what this is really about. Heck, that's why they're persecuting President Trump through the legal means. They know they can't beat him because everybody was better off when he was president, including young people. And the student loan debt issue that you were talking about.
The lowest I've ever seen petrol was, I think, 85 cents a liter. And that was just before the pandemic, I think. Something like that.
15th among young people on their most concerning issues in the country right now.
So what's the most concerning issues? Inflation?
Inflation absolutely is the number one thing. They just can't afford to get by. And it's hurting young people, seniors on fixed income, regular income Americans, gasoline, housing, groceries, utility prices are crushing them, not to mention interest rates because of Biden's massive spending caused inflation.
Well, not to mention a dangerous world. Foreign policy hasn't been much better. We're watching 2 world wars underway right now, and China on the march. I know you recently joined a delegation of lawmakers traveling to Turks and Caicos to meet with the American tourists.
Shut up. You are Fox Business. Shut the fuck up. Stay in your lane.
Are you aware of a CIA psychological profile about you, sir? Would you be interested in hearing what the CIA had to say? This secret study portrays as a brilliant but dangerous megalomaniac who is likely to pursue his own aims in disregard of U.S. interests. He's an uncertain ally. Shall I go on, or would you prefer that I stop, sir?